60 seats. Some Republicans in the last week have been saying 30 seats. We are not. We are not in that ballpark.
But this was not the red wave the polls had suggested.
We didn't have a red wave. It was a blue wave.
And just look at this map, right? That's not a red wave. That's nothing like a red wave.
Am I wrong to say that's the headline this morning? Not a red wave as we were hoping, maybe a little bit expecting. I think that's the big headline this morning. Good morning and welcome into Wake Up Mid-Missouri. I am Branden Rathert, joined by Stephanie Bell, John Marsh, Brian Hausworth, producer Hannah. What would be your headline this morning?
Yeah, I woke up this morning feeling a bit disappointed.
Marsh, what's your headline? Well, that's a really long headline. Hausworth, what's your headline? If you're writing for the Jefferson City News Tribune, what's your headline?
Well, that's putting it about Jeff City News Tribune, a mid-Missouri audience. I would say Republicans control every statewide office for first time in 100 years.
I like that optimism this morning. I mean, the best I've seen it described, red mirage, is that we thought we were going to get the red wave and we didn't get it.
Kind of that red haze you get. I don't know if you've ever smoked marijuana in your life, but you smoke
big
a
win
little
for
bit.
marijuana
A big
last
win
night.
for
Come
marijuana.
on.
A lot going on this morning. Producer Hannah, your headline?
Meh.
Okay, I like it. MEH.
It's concise, right?
I mean, where's your... Hannah has the best, she makes the I'm not going to make the noise. Yeah, that's how I feel about Boone County. Can we make that one again? Boone County? Yeah, that's how I feel.
But, it is interesting, and that is, and I was very specific. You asked a great question there, Brandon. You specifically said that if I was writing it for the Jeff City News Tribune, because literally you could write about 10 different headlines here. Democrats, if you were writing for the Columbia Tribune, the Democrats did very well. They actually did extremely well, better than some huge upsets. By the same token, if you were looking at statewide, I'm not sure there's a bigger issue in terms of Kansas City than that police funding issue. I mean, there's just a lot there on the ballot, and any other day we would be talking about this prowler on the loose in Columbia, and that story has been buried because of the election. I mean, it was a very wild, unusual election day. I've never seen anything like it.
And locally, we're going to drill down. So here's what we're waiting on nationally. Huge surprise. As a matter of fact, I can't wait till Gary Nolan comes on at 9 o'clock this morning. His take on that Fetterman-Oz race. I'm dumbfounded as to how the people of Pennsylvania can vote for this guy, especially with his illness following his recovery from a stroke. Dumbfounded. I don't understand how that happens. J.D. Vance wins in Ohio, and then there's still some of those other big Senate races. Arizona, we're kind of still waiting on, and then Georgia. And this is a real possibility. How many times have we said the phrase Georgia and do-over in the same a runoff election is very possible there in that race.
Likely, I think.
Yeah, very likely between Herschel Walker and Raphael Warnock. So not what we were hoping for in the Senate. The House on a national level looking a little better right now. I think locally so legal marijuana passes. Big question there. So because people want to know, okay, that's great, it's passed. When can we start getting high legally?
Should be able to do that by early 2023.
Okay, so a month and
pretty
a half.
quickly. I mean, the timeline in the initiative, I know from the state's perspective, they've been looking at it, working on it for months, trying to anticipate what changes were going to be needed to be made, because it is basically a really quick turnaround, especially when we're talking about government.
And that's interesting. He says January 2023 or whenever they can start to do it, because Emily Manley, who reports for Channel 2 in St. Louis, was at some event in Columbia where the final results came in, and she has videos on her Twitter page, and everyone in the room lit up and started smoking marijuana on television last night, and they were taking deep pulls. I mean, they really were on television. They didn't seem to be afraid.
Points for using the phrase "they were taking deep pulls."
Oh, I saw that. I saw that on Twitter. I don't know what that means.
I wouldn't know what the right phrase was.
Hausworth didn't know you had it in you, buddy.
Yeah,
and the thing with Amendment 3, I think.
Brownies for everybody. I don't know. Right.
And it's interesting. Stephanie Bell and I, we emceed the homecoming parade a couple of weeks ago. Great parade. Number one takeaway. Number two takeaway. Great community turnout. I think number three takeaway from that parade.
Someone was getting high earlier.
A lot
in the
of
morning.
people.
You know, I think, but for Republicans, I mean, we're people about freedom. And although I would choose in my own life to make different choices with respect to a whole bunch of different things, and I choose not to partake in marijuana. Not that I will, not that that's the choice for my full life. Maybe I will make a different choice in the future.
January 2023, she'll be making a different choice.
But, you know, do I think other people should have the freedom to do it? And, you know, I went to a conference and they talked about cognitive freedom to change your cognitive state. And they were talking about more than marijuana, but even, I mean, and the legislature has kind of been there too. And so I think more conservatives are freedom-minded about drugs than they have been in the past.
Yeah, but and the question is that what if they get into a car in like these people on television last night and drive? I mean, that is a concern. And Stephanie, also, the supporters outspent, according to one report I read, 700 to 1, and it barely passed. It passed because of the votes in the city, the two cities. If those votes hadn't come in from the city, that thing would have lost.
And one interesting question that I do think, you know, and again, I have done work for the proponents and folks on the show who listen here know that, but I do think in the past there have been calls about amending the Constitution. The Secretary of State has been very supportive of some of those changes, and one of the changes that people have said is, look, we need to change the requirement to change the Constitution. It needs to be a 60% vote or a 2/3 vote, that we shouldn't be able to just change the Constitution with the 50% plus one vote. And if you go back and look over the history of how many initiatives have passed, most of them don't get to that 2/3. And so people are like, we should make it harder to change the Constitution. So I wonder, because of how close this vote is, if in the spring, if in January when the legislature starts, if we will get a call for initiative reform.
And then Quentin Lucas is saying that he wants to take that Kansas City police funding to court.
Yeah, and that's something we're going to cover later on the show. That's an interesting thing. Quentin Lucas in Kansas City, he's an interesting cat. Anyway, this was not a surprise.
The voters have spoken. The polls have closed, and the results are in. Tonight, the people of Missouri have voted for a new direction and a new generation of leadership to save America.
Eric Schmidt elected to the Senate. He'll be taking over Roy Blunt's seat when he's done in January. Brian Houseworth and I were just, we spent some time Monday with Eric Schmidt, kind of his and Mike Parson was there, and I don't think that was completely expected. Scott Fitzpatrick, he also wins that auditor's seat. He was also there, and that's almost history-making in the state of Missouri now.
Yeah, and I've never seen anything like it, because we've had 2 Republican senators before, and there's generally always been at least one Democrat in the in a statewide office for the last 7 years. After Jay Nixon and a couple other Democrats left, it was Nicole Galloway. She's been auditor for 7 years. She didn't run again. And according to Scott Fitzpatrick is saying this is the first time in 100 years Republicans will control every statewide office, and they dominate. Those were landslide victories. The unusual thing, Alan Green and Trudy Bush Valentine both carried Boone County easily. That tells you something. That tells me that Caleb Rowden's Senate seat in 2 years, it's in jeopardy of going to the Democrats.
Again, you look at the map, the red-blue map this morning on some of those races. It's like every election. You're looking at all the red counties in Missouri, and there's 3 blue dots. Kansas City, St. Louis, and Columbia.
Yeah, Boone County, and even Springfield got a little bit more blue. And some people locally I saw that were really excited. I know folks know the name like Stephen Weber, and I saw on Twitter he was pretty pleased, and that I think is one name that has been floated out there, right, about the Boone County
I've heard
seat.
his name, and he almost beat Caleb Rowden in 2016. I mean, he did. The Cooper County numbers came in, but I know his name has been mentioned out there. In Brandon mentioned Springfield. The Republicans, or excuse me, the Democrats appear to have 3 Missouri House seats in Springfield itself. That would have been
and now they have 3 in Boone County.
That would have been unheard of.
So locally, the biggest story. Let's start Cole County. John, nothing really seismic happened in Cole County yesterday. 50% turnout, Cole County. Last true midterm, 2018, they had 63% turnout. Boone County turnout almost 50%. Last midterm several years ago, only 37%. So that's the big thing in Cole County.
296 provisional ballots here, too. That was more than we expected.
And the big story for us locally here in mid-Missouri this morning, we have lost 2 Republican conservative seats on a state level in the House of Representatives. 50th congressional seat, Jim Musgraves, retired Navy commander, loses to Douglas Mann. And then that 47th district seat, Adrian Plank, I don't know how many times he's run for that seat. Chuck Basie was holding on to the seat. John Martin, local businessman, he was in that race as a Republican. Those 2 seats, 47th and 50th seat, those are now Democrat seats. Because if you're in Boone County, everything, by the way, countywide, all Democrats winning yesterday. Steve Spellman here, 635. Maybe to steal Steph's headline, some optimism, maybe, but all the countywide offices in Boone County all went to the Dems. I think a little bit of optimism there. They were scoring in the 40, 45, 46%, so it's not as bad as what we usually see in Boone County for Republicans, but that was kind of good. Steve Spellman here, 635, but losing 2 just locally, losing 2 conservative seats here.
And I saw Representative Reich at our Eagle Show Me event on Monday, and she said, I just really hope I'm not the only one left in Boone, and she is.
She is, and to put that in perspective, and keep in mind that it was Caleb Jones, and then for years just Republicans in all these seats, Chuck Basie and everybody else. But to put it in perspective, how strong the Democrats performed in Boone County, Trudy Bush Valentine beat Eric Schmidt by 10,000 votes in this county. That is that's much more than I would have expected. That is, again, that's a huge Democratic turnout.
All right, things we are covering for you this morning here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri, your reaction. And you want to play, what is your headline this morning? Houseworth's headline for the newspaper is, can you repeat what your headline is this morning?
Republicans to control every Missouri statewide office for first time in 100 years.
All right, shortened it a little bit. Steph, your headline?
I need Hannah's help. Boone County.
Hannah, your headline?
Meh.
My headline, not a red wave. What would your headline be today? 874-9390. You can text those to us. AJ says, hey, don't forget, Missouri elected a dead man to a senatorial position. Brandon's headline via text, Americans vote to continue
Whoa.
to take it in. All right. Coming up.
Oh, yikes.
Daily DC rundown. What do you have for us, Steph?
Well, Missourians weren't the only one voting on marijuana last night. Let's take a look at other
We've looked very closely at the numbers. We feel very confident that there's no way that they can really make up that gap. But I'm not going to declare victory until all the numbers are in.
That's Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson. That's one of those races still not decided as we're approaching almost 6:30, day after the election. And this is one of those things that's now getting us into today's Daily DC Rundown with Stephanie Bell.
According to current counts, Johnson is in the lead, but we're also watching very closely. So we know we're going to pick up some seats in the House. The Senate still is a draw. We're still watching Georgia, Nevada, Alabama. Did I get them all? I think. Georgia, Nevada, Alabama. Not Alabama, Arizona, sorry.
Close. Been a long couple of days for everybody.
I have not slept enough. But yeah, so those states are still counting. And of course, Arizona was kind of a dumpster fire yesterday with issues and other things. So we're still counting there. Hopefully we know more today, but we might not. So obviously the big story is Pennsylvania. What are the people of that state doing? I'm speechless.
I don't understand that. Was it the Oprah endorsement? People bought Oprah's favorite things. One of her favorite things was John Fetterman. Even if let's say there's a Republican that we like and they've had some serious health issues, we're like, yeah, you probably shouldn't be doing this. It's not good for you personally, and it's not good for the people you're going to ideally try to represent.
Yeah, so no red wave in the Senate, really. And then also, I know there was some significant hope with governor's races, like New York and other places, and we didn't get a red wave there either. But we're still hoping that maybe we will tie the Senate or take one seat, but it's not looking great.
So here's where we are right now in the Senate race. There's still 4 Senate seats left in play, according to Fox News. It's basically it's 48-48 in some of those outstanding races. Herschel Walker, Raphael Warnock in Georgia.
Laxalt in Nevada, Masters in Arizona. So we're still watching those. But some things that we do know are marijuana. Missouri passed marijuana yesterday. There was marijuana on the ballot in Maryland as well, and it was also approved. But in 2 other states, Arkansas and North Dakota, they voted down the recreational marijuana. So still kind of a split in the states on marijuana, although 21 states have now approved recreational use of marijuana. Also, 2 states picked up photo ID issues. And so Nebraska added photo ID, and actually Arizona's still counting. They're kind of trying to modify their photo ID. There's kind of an exception there, and they're trying to get rid of that. Obviously, they've had some issues, so they're still counting. But, Missouri photo ID was first used. Remember, we didn't have it in August. We had it in November. And, as far as I saw, Twitter, social media, everything else in all my work yesterday, I didn't see any widespread issues with people, having any difficulties trying to vote with a photo ID.
Back to the drug stuff, the recreational marijuana in Colorado. They were voting on magic mushrooms.
They were. It was in we had a bill in our own house on psilocybin, but
psilocybin, the ingredient in the shrooms, which is, by the way, there's been a lot of success with psilocybin in treating, especially veterans with PTSD. There's been a lot of applications as it relates to treating people with depression. I think the number is still not solid yet in Colorado, still not done, but with a good portion of the vote counted, legalized psilocybin. Has a lead of 51% right now. And that's your Daily DC Rundown. Wow, Stephanie is keeping an eye on all of this all morning long. Steve Spellman, we're going to look at what happened in some of these Republican celebratory parties last night. He's here 5 minutes from now.
We need to downsize Missouri government. Our state employees are one of the lowest paid state governments in the country, but I believe we're about the 7th largest state government per capita.
That's Republican Jim Schulte winning House District Seat 49, Callaway County, chatting with KRCG earlier this week. So he wins a seat currently held by Travis Fitzwater. He's moving on as he wins the Senate seat in that race. Matter of fact, Travis Fitzwater joins us on the show. New State Senator-elect Travis Fitzwater here, 7:35 this morning. Scott Fitzpatrick is going to be joining us here on the show at 8:10 this morning. There's some interesting things happening. So Scott Fitzpatrick, been state treasurer. He moves up into the auditor's office seat held by Nicole Galloway. All the big statewide elected offices, Republicans. But then kind of the aftermath of what's going to be happening here.
Yeah, I mean, well, at the local level, we had some really bizarre things happen. Of course, in Boone County, we had 2 seats that were previously Republican flip over to Democrats. And then down, there were 2 Republicans elsewhere who lost, and incumbent Republicans in the state house who lost. And then a lot of the races were really close. And so we we had the tie here in Boone County in April. And we talk about how every vote counts. You think about how many people vote in these state house races. It's in the thousands. I mean, in the John Martin race, what do we have? 15,000? 4 different races were decided by right around 200 votes. So 179, 109. We lost an incumbent by 47 votes in Clay County. And we lost a Republican in Greene County by 202 votes in the state house. I mean, 47 votes out of thousands of votes. Gosh.
And that's why we say, not only do we say it, but we mean it. It's a real thing when we say every single vote counts. We'll go back to the city council race back in April. Longtime incumbent Carl Scala and Roy Lovelady tied with over 2,200 votes cast.
Crazy.
Dead tie. And then, of course, Roy Lovelady went on to win overwhelmingly that seat. And it's interesting, before we move forward here, and Steve Spellman, who you hear here on the show from time to time, follows local politics for us. He was at some Republican parties last night. Want to get his reaction to what happened. But the thing that's remarkable about that Roy Lovelady, who now he's been on the show several times, saw him at the airport, the grand opening for the new terminal at the airport a couple weeks ago, and he comes up and he says, "I got to tell you guys," and these are his words. He said, people said, well, Roy, you're a gay, black, cross-dressing hairdresser. You have no business on going on to Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9 The Eagle and 104.5 News Radio 950 KWOS. Roy Lovelady said this to me at the airport terminal grand opening a couple weeks ago. He says, "Thank you guys for having me on your show from time to time." And he says, "I really believe you guys are why I won." So I thought that was pretty impressive. This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Stephanie Bell, John Marsh, Brian Houseworth. He's a cool cat. And I think, on the show here, we don't, whatever. You got to do good stuff. It doesn't matter. But it's one of those, we talk about stereotypes a lot. And our audience, the cool thing about having Roy Lovelady when he was coming on our show during that campaign for that city council seat, was the audience reaction.
Yeah, and I think he does fit in with this crowd because he's kind of like a no BS, authentic guy. He said he doesn't try to be somebody else. He told us who he was. He spoke his mind, and I think that's what, as somebody who, as part of the family, I don't appreciate when I'm hearing something and I'm seeing people's actions or I know them to be a hypocrite. And we can disagree on the issues, but if you're straight up with me and I know where you're going to be, I respect. Right. And I think that's what got him elected.
So Scott Fitzpatrick, he's going to be here. He will now be the auditor for the state of Missouri seat held right now by Nicole Galloway. Republicans all across the board on a statewide level. Quite in the Cole County big story, John. So we're writing headlines this morning. Hannah's headline for the election as a whole.
Meh.
Boone County. Thanks, Hannah.
You're welcome. That's what I'm here for, guys. Fart noises.
Not a red wave. Marsh, what's your headline? Okay. That's another big story. Mike Parson will be appointing 2 more people to office. Send us your headline, 874-9390. The election, what would your headline, if you were writing for a newspaper, say you were writing for the Missourian, as Steve Spellman does a lot, what would your headline be? Darren says, "We are screwed." Yeah.
I mean,
Stuart, my headline would be, what in the crap is the matter with our country? Oh, gosh. And locally, so we did not get the red wave, and I think in Boone County, kind of as expected. Steve Spellman, who joins us on the show from time to time, ingrained in local issues, local politics, regular fill-in, regular guest here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. You were at the Republican watch parties last night. Take us there, man. What was the mood as we watched locally the results roll in?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. It's kind of the results rolled in at, 10 or whatever it is now these days. Just the realization that local conservatives, Republican candidates countywide in Boone County, which includes, the university town of Columbia, liberal progressive area, it just didn't work out, as you guys were saying. It's very uncanny, both Connie Leopard and Shimon Jones, who run for countywide office, very, very similar number of votes. 26,000 to 34,000 their opponent got. So they both lost by about 8,000. Thought Dustin stand for treasurer. He has good crossover potential with maybe some Democrats with the farmers market, the business he's in, good name recognition. He still lost by 3,000. And especially Jason Gibson for a county auditor. Very unusual situation. Many local Democrats, moderate establishment Democrats, respected in the community among politicos and so forth, they were kind of secretly pulling for him because he already works in that office. And the Democrat opponent is, we'll just say, not the best person there. And he still lost by 2,000. And I don't think she'd mind me saying, but Connie Leopard was just kind of looked really tired and, losing this after putting in, a little college try and everything. But it's like, if Jason Gibson can't win in Boone County this cycle, who else has a chance? That was really the story here.
Is it fair to say Boone County went from a royal blue to navy blue last night?
Yeah, and, I'm sure you guys will get into analyzing, voter turnout. It was about 49%, I think I saw from the county clerk's website. And, I think the consensus is, Democrats come out. It's government's very important to them. They have a collective nature and philosophy, and, voting is an important part of their life. And conservatives, many conservatives, especially, I've seen some folks that were going door to door, like younger folks, maybe outside of town, just, kind of apathy. It's like, it doesn't make a difference. I don't know. They might yell at the radio or the TV, but come out to vote. It's like, all right. And that collection of people not showing up. I mean, you can't miss that there was an election yesterday. I mean, people aren't living in a cave that didn't know what's up. But only half the registered voters showed up, and a lot of those probably would lean conservative that didn't show.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening there. Our guest, Steve Spellman, here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri, kind of looking at some of the local stuff. I want to ask you, so it bums me out. So we had one lone Republican in a countywide office, Dustin Stanton, who's an incredible story. His political stuff aside, incredible story. He loses, but I'm looking at county auditor, and that is one that blows me away, too. And this is one that tells me people don't do their homework. Ryman beating Jason Gibson, who is a stand-up guy. Kyle Ryman fired from the city of Columbia, and I believe right now still embroiled in a lawsuit against the city. I mean, the guy is just bad news, and people don't do their homework when they go and vote for that guy because he has a D behind his name. It tells me people don't do their homework. But I want to get your opinion on this. I don't want to keep you too long, Steve. So I'm looking at these races, and I've yet to have time to compare them to, but I know anecdotally in the years that I've been here, it feels a little bit better. County treasurer, the Democrat, won by 6 points. Auditor, Kyle, won that seat by 4 points. Recorder of deeds, a little bit bigger of a gain there. But some of these races were fairly close. Is it kind of like Steph? One of her part of her headline is optimism this morning. Is that optimism for conservatives and Republicans in Boone County that we're getting in the 40s?
It didn't feel like that last night.
Okay.
Especially that Jason Gibson one where there were Democrats in the community actively going for him. I mean, maybe not, publicly because, they want to play nice with the party, but you saw street corners in town where all Democrats signed, Valentine and all the other people. And then you had Republican Jason Gibson in the fray. I mean, that's such an unusual situation, and he didn't even make it. I guess maybe as the days go by, I might get a little rosier about, maybe making progress because, in Boone County government, it's been, Democrats across the board for a long time. That's been the case, and maybe cracking at it, but more today, it feels like we just need a new strategy. I don't know if in a liberal college town leading with a MAGA hat and that sort of thing is going to convince anybody. Maybe along with faithful and getting the base worked up. But if you want to actually, change voting habits and change minds and hearts, that's how politics are going to follow. And I think regrouping here locally and thankfully statewide top of the ticket type stuff and the people that Mid-Missourians are sending to Congress in Washington. We're going to have Eric Schmidt there. I guess that's that's good, but he's going to be rubbing elbows with this Fetterman guy who I'll be back in Pennsylvania in rehab or something. But I don't know.
Crazy.
That's another topic.
Our guest, Steve Spellman, talking about some of this local election stuff this morning here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's that rural-urban divide. I grew up in the Midway area in western Boone County. My folks live out there. Typically on Saturdays anymore, we'll take a little road trip, even during later part of COVID. We'll go down to Versailles and Moberly and Lynn and Herman and so forth, and it is Trump country. I mean, there are flags people got from years ago. They're tattered. There ain't no Biden stuff or anything out there. And, well, you go in Columbia, and I was going up to a watch party last night up West Boulevard, west side of town, and I've never seen such a density of vote for the climate yard signs in my life. And, I mean, it's a different world in different parts of the community. And this John Martin race, his new district, it was Chuck Basie's kind of, but part of rural Boone County, but then a deep blue part of west central Columbia. It, always votes very deep blue. And we thought John Martin had a shot at it, but he didn't quite make it even. So,
Steve Spellman,
different philosophy.
Different philosophies. Matter of fact, you see some of those signs, vote for climate change. You go down West Boulevard in Columbia. Right. My goodness,
like 20
man.
Of them, I think.
That place is woke central. It's like walking into a Schnucks grocery store at Foreman Stadium. Steve Spellman attending watch parties for us locally last night. We appreciate you joining us this morning here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Bottom line, national level, there are still 4 Senate seats left in play. We still don't have a winner in that Senate race in Arizona and in Georgia and Nevada, Wisconsin. That's coming down to the wire, too. So these are races that we're watching for you this morning. Did I leave anything important out there? Herschel Walker, Georgia Senate race, Raphael Warnock. Very likely that could go to, because that Senate seat, they've had those do-over elections before.
It wasn't good for us the last time.
More headlines. Your headlines. We've all written headlines for this morning. Following election results, we're going to share some of those. And Trump being interviewed last night about this election.
You've endorsed more than 330 candidates this election cycle. Tonight, win or lose, the results for Republicans, how much of that will be because of Donald Trump?
Let me do this. We're running out of time. We'll take a break real quick, and then we'll play How Did He Answer That Question? It was true Trump, man. It was good stuff. That's coming up 5 minutes from now here on Wake
You've endorsed more than 330 candidates this election cycle. Tonight, win or lose, the results for Republicans, how much of that will be because of Donald Trump?
Donald Trump being interviewed. How did he answer that? I do want to get to that, but a couple of quick texts at 874-9390 here. Wake Up Mid-Missouri. We're writing headlines after what happened last night. Bottom line right now, nationally, 4 Senate seats still in play in those 4 races. Don't you know they are going to be key to the balance of the Senate? Very likely Republicans will take the House. Big story this morning. My headline, not a red wave. Stephanie's headline.
Well, can I add one?
Yeah.
So locally, Boone County. Thanks, Hannah.
Marsh.
But wait, can I add one though? Nationally, big DeSantis energy.
Yeah.
Terry Lake was right. I mean, he had a huge night.
Yeah. And Hannah's headline is Marsh. So here's headlines from you, Brad, 874-9390. Would love to hear, what is your headline if you were writing a headline for a newspaper? Brad, headline, if you voted Democrat, you get what you show. Michael, anyone can be U.S. Senator. That would be the headline in a newspaper. Steve says, let's get Steph into that attorney general spot.
I think there are lessons for conservatives from that Oz-Fetterman race, and we should talk about it.
Like picking better candidates? Is that the big...
There are lessons, I think. Some good ones.
So Trump, who endorsed Dr. Oz, being asked last night, all right, you win or lose, you take the credit, you take the blame?
Well, I think if they win, I should get all the credit, and if they lose, I should not be blamed at all.
Of course he said that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that is a huge deal, though. And I think this is what gives me optimism, is because as much as I love Trump, I really do not want him to run in 2024. Nope. And I think we had a problem with candidate quality last night, and I think it was his fault. And I think, and people are going to hate me for saying this, but I think he's going to be rethinking that, November 15th announcement. I don't know that it's going to be especially with DeSantis's performance last night, he's got to be reconsidering this morning. And I think that's a plus for the Republican Party, because I feel like we need to move on.
If it's Trump policies that we liked the policies, somebody like DeSantis or Noem can take those same policies to the White House and do it for 8 years.
And I saw someone who's really Republican on Twitter say, will this be the second time Trump cost the Republicans the Senate? Good question.
Coming up, 7:10, Mark Alford. He is officially elected to that 4th congressional district seat. He is joining us coming up 7:10. Hear what he has to say following last night's victory.
60 seats. Some Republicans in the last week have been saying 30 seats. We are not. We are not in that ballpark.
But this was not the red wave the polls had suggested.
We didn't have a red wave. It was a blue wave.
And just look at this map, right? That's not a red wave. That's nothing like a red wave.
What happened? I thought everybody would.
We were all on the same page. Me too.
Yeah.
Apparently not.
What happened, John? Yeah. Yeah.
I have optimism about that. I think it says something about Biden and it says something about Trump. I think Trump candidates had a bad night last night, and I think the Republican establishment are going to coalesce around DeSantis in a hurry.
Because I can't remember who it was, but somebody saying several months ago, like Trump endorsement in the primary might be huge, but a Trump endorsement in the general, and I can't remember who it was that was saying that over and over.
Are you? Of course you were. But I also think Biden had a better than expected night. And I think if he would have had a terrible night, he would have not run again. I think he had just good of a night that he will run again. And I think he is beatable. And so I think in that way, I am excited about 2024 because he's about the worst candidate they could put up. And he survived just well enough that I think he's going to run again.
I think he's waking up today invigorated. Like, look, we didn't get our ass kicked as bad as we thought. You know, like when you're in high school, meet you at 3 o'clock out by the thing, and you get out there, and you know you're going to get your butt kicked, but you do it because you got to save face, and then you're like, I didn't get my butt kicked as bad as I thought I was going to.
Have you ever seen Biden look invigorated?
This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Welcome into the show. A couple of the big things, not a red wave. Other big thing, right now, there are still, on a national level, 4 Senate seats still in play. Stephanie and I pouring through some of these numbers during breaks. Nevada, Arizona, these races neck and neck. Not all the results are in. Ron Johnson, Wisconsin is looking good. I don't know how on earth the people of Philadelphia, or people of Pennsylvania, voted for John Fetterman. That blows me away. Georgia, that race still pretty interesting.
Yeah, and it's probably going to go to a runoff. And when you're looking at these, there's lots of stuff being reported online. Now, some of the votes, like I think in Wisconsin, like 99% of the vote is in, but they haven't really called it. I think in Arizona, we've got like 60% of the vote in. In Nevada, there's a lot of votes to still come in. So make sure you're looking at that, not just the percentages, but how much of the vote is in. And that's really, where we're going to be watching today.
So your headlines, what do you got for a headline? If you were writing headlines for a newspaper, 874-9390. I've got not a red wave. Stephanie has
Boone County.
Marsh, what do you got? And then what's Mr. Houseworth's newspaper saying this morning?
Well, it would all depend on what town we were in. It would depend on if Jeff City, Columbia, I'd probably have about 3 headlines. But if I had to pick one.
That's a lawyer answer. What he just said was, it depends.
It depends. But if I had to pick one, Governor will appoint 2 new statewide office holders. That is huge. That is a big deal in that people aren't even thinking about that right now. And he's going to have to start thinking about it. And trust me, he's already been thinking about it.
And we do have somebody on text saying Stephanie Bell should be the Attorney General. And by the way, that's not like a flippant text either. There was a big article. Scott Fawn, Missouri Times, did a big story about, hey, here's some people potentially that could go and replace Eric Schmidt.
That's true.
And in that article, Scott Fawn talked about one Miss Stephanie Bell. Right now, it's Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Stephanie Bell, Brian Houseworth, producer Hannah, John Marsh. My name is Branden Rathert. The other big thing I think really locally is we lost 2 Republican conservative seats. 47th seat, which is held by Chuck Basie.
Right.
John Martin loses to Adrian Plank, the Democrat there. That blows me away. In the 50th district, seat currently held by Sarah Walsh. Jim Musgraves, retired Navy commander, was not able to get that seat. Douglas Mann wins that seat. So locally, those are the big things. And locally, on a bigger basis, 4th Congressional District goes to Mark Alford. No big surprise. Former TV guy joining us on the show this morning. Mark, welcome in. Congratulations. Not unexpected, but I still want to know the moment that somebody put that check by your name on the TV and said, yep, Mark Alford is the winner. What was that like for you?
Well, I tell you what, and how's my favorite morning crew doing today?
Doing great.
We're awesome.
Good. So I don't like sitting around, as you probably know if you follow me on social media. We try to be everywhere, listening to people. That was kind of the hallmark of our campaign, being out listening to people. And so yesterday, we decided to do a little thank you tour, and we went to 4 counties, made 6 stops. Started in Lafayette at 8 in the morning, and then over to Johnson County, and then to Henry County, Bates County, and finally ended up back in Cass County at our campaign headquarters. So I wanted to keep busy to kind of keep my mind off of things, but also to say thank you. And when we were at our election watch party last night, and things started looking good, we wanted to make sure that we had indeed had the votes to claim victory. And when that moment came and we walked out on stage with my wife and my daughter and future son-in-law, they're getting married Saturday. It was quite, I know, a little stress, right? But it was surreal. And to see, hundreds of people there who, some very close friends, some people that I've only known for a short time, and even complete strangers I'd never met before, that they were there to support me and put their trust in me to be the voice for the 4th Congressional District. It was just, I felt like the weight was off my shoulders, but then this weight is back on because we have a lot of work to do. We're meeting today at our headquarters at 10 to start our transition to start formally hiring people and mapping out a plan for success.
I like it. As we talk about your day yesterday, did you have any superstitions or anything that will become a ritual? I'm interested. I know Schmidt went out for pizza. Was there something you wore when you had a big day in your previous job, or was there anything that, next cycle you're going to say, I'm going to do that again?
I love my Stetson open road hat. Stephanie, I know you've seen that in the MU games that we've been to, and my dad wore that hat. My grandfather wore that hat. Not the same one. I bought a new one. But I think that may become a trademark for me. Someone suggested I wear that all the time, and I wore it on all the stops yesterday, and I kind of like it.
Mark, and Congressman-elect, I think is more appropriate. We appreciate you joining us live here on the program. 2 very quick questions. Number 1, your district, and I think it's very important because we talk about the Democrats, how good they did and well they did in Boone County. The fact is, anywhere else around the state outside of St. Louis and Kansas City, particularly the rural areas, and your district is rural, not just red, ruby red. But I can remember starting in Carrollton as a young reporter being in this district, and it was all Democrat. All these counties were straight Democrat. They voted for Ike Skelton. They now vote straight Republican. What do you read into that?
And we had quite a few Democrats, believe it or not, at our event last night, including my brother-in-law, a farmer in Henry County, who's never voted for a Republican before. I think people are coming around. They realize that the Democrat Party has really left them. This woke, broke, crazy side of the Democrat Party just does not represent their values. And so they're looking for some party that does. And while we may not agree on everything, the Republican Party has become the party of the big tent. It's become the party of the working class. It's become the party of truth, of reason, of solutions. And so I think they realize that, hey, there's something there that I can get on board with and maybe have some influence in to try to make our state and our country better.
All right, our guest, Mark Alford. He is the 4th Congressional District Congressman-elect following a big night last night. He's joining us this morning on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Right. It did. I remember covering one of my first elections. I was a reporter in Waco, Texas, at the CBS TV affiliate there, and we went out to this very small town near Fort Hood, and they were writing they had this huge chalkboard in the county square, and they would write the votes down by precinct as they would come in, and people would stand around the courthouse square. And to go from that to last night being interviewed by several stations here in the Kansas City market, it is. It's funny how God works. I mean, this was never, I told you guys this was never on my radar. 2 years ago, if you had asked me what I'd be doing today, probably real estate and going to Cancun and enjoying life. But this was never on my radar. And I tell you what, I had so much passion as a young person wanting to get into the news business, wanting to be a professional storyteller, news anchor and reporter. I have never had this much passion for anything in my life. I went to bed at 2 last night. I got up at 5 this morning. I am ready to go to work for the people.
All right, Mark Alford, and I don't want to put any kind of dampers on our celebration here. A lot of folks here in mid-Missouri, we are excited to have you as our representative. I think Congresswoman Vicky Hartzler did a very solid job for quite some time, and we expect the same of you. I want to highlight this article from the Federalist, and the headline was, "To the soon-to-be elected Republicans, don't embarrass your constituents. When you go to Washington, D.C., it's not a field trip." Mark, we don't have any concerns with you doing that kind of stuff, but I do want to ask you, everybody, red wave. It was kind of sketchy over the summer following the abortion ruling, and then we got back on track, and it just did not materialize. In your eyes, before we let you go, what do you think happened?
I'm disappointed in that as well. I think there's still a lot of angst over the Dobbs decision in America. I think there are still a lot of people who are crying that we're losing our democracy at stake. Heck, even in the Kansas City Star, I remember in the aside from the hit piece they did on me last week, before the primary, they called me a threat to democracy just because I wouldn't answer their little survey that they did, or come meet with the editorial board. And when you start, there's a couple of ways that you can really motivate people. You can do it through fear manipulation, or you can do it through inspiration. I think the Democrats have motivated people by fear and manipulation. I think it's up to the Republican Party to turn back to what Ronald Reagan did. And I think what a lot of people are going to be doing, including myself, is to inspire people to greatness. And I want to bring our district together, our party together, our state together, and America together for some healing through inspiration, because we live in the greatest country ever known, and we have the protection and providence of God Almighty. And I think we need healing in America, and a lot of that is going to revolve around returning to Him.
Congressman-elect Mark Alford, victory lap on Wake Up Mid-Missouri this morning. And so I'm sure you have come to know this about us. We are all about serving, in effect, our constituents, too. If you're listening to Wake Up Mid-Missouri, you are a constituent of the show. You're a constituent of Mark Alford. If you're in the 4th Congressional District, you have our studio line. You have our numbers. Anything that we can do for you to be of service to Missourians, that's for real. Our invitation is always open for you, sir.
Well, I appreciate it. I've been watching you guys now on Facebook and YouTube when I can. It's quite entertaining. Trying to read your lips during the commercial break.
Mark Alford, thank you. We appreciate you. If you want to be like Mark Alford, you go to our YouTube channel, Wake Up Mid-Missouri, and try to read lips during the commercial breaks. Cameras stay on. What's hot with
Well, there was a report yesterday that one of the voters in Boone County got a little unruly with a poll worker. We'll be highlighting that story.
Good morning, 7:25-ish, which means it's
7:27.
time for What's Hot with Hannah.
You know, there was a story that came out yesterday from the voting polls that upset me a little bit.
See that on the YouTube channel?
That's
the
rude.
double bird.
I know what's coming.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Why do you know what's coming?
Because
Well-
I know how the two of you are thick as thieves.
Right.
Always on me, John. I need to get my back here sometime.
So we talked leading up to the election. We talked about, being nice to your poll workers. There's always been a poll worker shortage. And so we're lucky to have the poll workers that we do have.
We talked about doing your homework.
Yeah, making sure you have a valid ID, checking your polling place.
Because with redistricting and the new law, make sure you got your ducks in a row. And we harped on that, kind of like as a public service announcement here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Right, and there were some issues in Hallsville. They added a second polling place, and people didn't check their, sample ballots very closely. But there was a story here in Columbia of a local man berating a poll worker because he was wrong about where he was supposed to be voting. And that person is our very own Branden Rathert. I can't believe you did this.
Hey, me neither.
You're supposed to be, informed and stuff.
So you can imagine my embarrassment because you're right. I am supposed to be informed. For the past 2 months, I've been here with Stephanie saying, make sure your stuff is up to date. Make sure you know where you're going. And I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea. I didn't berate, but I did lie to a poll worker because I was so embarrassed.
You told me that you got kind of nasty with the poll worker.
I did.
You showed up to the wrong polling place, and she said, sir, you're at the wrong polling place. And you said, nuh-uh.
Yeah.
Is that what you did?
So embarrassing.
So she says, no, sir, you're supposed to go to Olivet Church. This is in Columbia. Usually I vote at the Elks Lodge, where I've always voted. It's where I always voted until the midterms of 2022. So my happy rear end goes into I'm getting ready to do my civic duty. Look at me. I'm such a good guy. And I get there and wait in the line and give her my ID. And she says, sir, you're supposed to vote at Olivet Baptist Church. I'm like,
nuh-uh.
No, thank God.
Is anyone surprised, though, that Branden just stuck to his guns and was like, I'm right?
And I apologize for lying because my pride was hurt because, I was being hypocritical. And I got...
So what was your lie?
Oh, I said, no, that's what it said on my sample ballot.
Oh, my God. That's not even a good lie.
Yeah, and it's not... and it's not what it says on my sample ballot. Travis Fitzwater here 5 minutes from now.
Missouri needs a senator who wakes up every day to fight for them in their future. I will be that senator. I will be your voice.
Yeah, he is. Eric Schmidt. Victory speech last night, as expected, easily defeats Trudy Bush Valentine. Brian Hausworth and I were with Eric Schmidt and the governor, and Scott Fitzpatrick, who is the state treasurer, now has actually been elected to become the state auditor. Scott Fitzpatrick joins us this morning here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri at 8:10 because he's got some interesting insight on what's been happening now with the balance of the state legislature. Locally, we lost 2 conservative seats in the state House. The 50th district seat currently held by Walsh. That goes to a Democrat. 47th seat held by Chuck Basie. That seat goes to a Democrat. And because of his time in the legislature, Scott Fitzpatrick might have some interesting takes and spins. He's here at 8:10, but right now I want to welcome in Travis Fitzwater, last night elected as the 10th State Senate District Representative. Travis Fitzwater, welcome into the show. Glad you're here. I'd like to share a little bit of our text exchange, if you're cool with it. If I may, sir.
You should, but I'm here, so that's a good sign.
Okay, so 2 things. So I reached out to Travis the other morning. I text like, "Hey, we're trying to shore up. We want to get the winners on the show for victory laps, and can we don't have a definitive time. Basically, we can narrow it down between 5:30 and 9 a.m." And so I go into this long text. Here's the response back from the Senator-elect Travis Fitzwater. The response I got was, "Who dis?"
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
sorry.
I'm
I feel so dumb.
Yeah, well, you felt dumb. I felt embarrassed because well, don't you know who I am? So then we all okay, yeah. And then I said, "Do you want to come on?" He says, "Yeah, unless I lose this race, I won't want to be showing my face." Didn't happen. You won. What's it like? You've already held elected office for several years, being a state representative, but now to the Senate. Is there a different feeling in a victory becoming a state senator as opposed to being in the House? Any different feelings in that victory?
Yeah. First, let me say I'm sorry I didn't have your number. You are a big deal, no matter. But I'm a small deal, so me not having your number is just proof of that. And so it's not on you, it's on me. But it's pretty amazing. We're excited about it. Every victory is always, it's always a big deal. You work so hard. You don't win these races just by being in them. They take a ton of effort. They take a lot of time. They take a lot of people that come along with you, that put effort into and believe in you and invest in you. And I've had just droves and droves of people, friends, family, mentors that went to bat for us. And so it's a sweet thing internally and personally, but it's also a sweet thing because the community that surrounds you, that is bought into you and sold on you and really wants to see you succeed. They feel it too. And I think that's the fun of it, is getting to celebrate with my family and my friends and my community. And we're just really just trying to keep the perspective that it's not about me. We're here to serve the state of Missouri. It's not about me winning this thing. It's about how do we move the state forward, and how do we do what's best for our kids, for my kids, and for our future.
Representative and now Senator-elect, we appreciate you joining us live. I talked to you on Monday at the Republican headquarters. We did a short interview, and I remember asking you, if you were elected, what would your priorities be? And you mentioned a couple, and one of them was protecting kids. You also talked about the importance of helping the police. In other words, letting them do their jobs, protecting them as well. What would you focus on in the Senate to protect the police officers and also the children, sir?
Well, I think getting resources to our law enforcement is important, ensuring we're not defunding the police. That's what we did with the amendment. I think it was Amendment 4 last night, funding the Kansas City Police Department, because they defunded their police department, which, is not great. We got to fight violent crime in the cities. This is what we're seeing. People are scared. They feel unsafe in these cities. And so we've got to make sure that we're taking care of them. That protects kids. We got to, in Lincoln County alone, there's, I believe, about 1,000 open cases against abuse against children. Mm-hmm. Those things need to be adjudicated. They need to be investigated and taken care of, but the resources aren't there to make that happen in a swift manner. So, there's a lot of ways we can protect kids. And then and there are 14,000 foster care kids in the state of Missouri, 14,000. that's a lot. We got to take care of those kids. Those are kids that are without a home. They're being passed from home to home. They're going through the fire, and those are the least among us, and we need to be thinking about those kids. And this is a message that just really hit home when we were knocking doors. People just really care about kids, and they want legislators that are going to go in thinking about those issues. And crime is certainly on the top of that. And how do you get the resources to our heroic first responders and law enforcement to take care of our communities?
So I think the real power of the Senate and of a senator is to be able to put the kibosh on something bad, right? I mean, that's what happens in the Senate, right? A lot of bills float over from the House, or, people get a wild idea, and the Senate really, puts a lot of wild things to bed, I think, and says, okay, we need to prioritize here. Is there, we don't need another state bird or state amphibian or whatever it might be. Are there issues out there that you're saying, yeah, I'm going to be that person in the Senate who stands up, and that's not going to get past me? Are there things out there that you're saying I will hold firm on?
Yeah, I think the House certainly has that. We pass a lot of stuff because I'm still a House member, so pass a lot of stuff sent to the Senate. But I think everybody's always considered the Senate, and the Senate has always historically been kind of the more deliberative body. And so I hope that's the case. I think that's really important, that the way we fight back against kind of government overreach and government growth is probably through the budgeting process. And I think that's a big space where we're going to have to be really, really, how do I say this? Like, really intelligent about how we do budgeting going forward, because this fiscal year alone, our budget went up $14 billion from $35 billion to $49 billion because we have all these federal dollars being thrown at us. It's going to be really hard it's always hard to move back, once you put the money in the budget. So I think one big thing is we've got to be serious about cutting our budget and ensuring that the government doesn't grow out of control. And because when that happens, it reduces freedom. It reduces businesses' ability to expand and succeed. You get a lot more bureaucrats starting to deal in people's lives and getting involved in their lives, as opposed to letting Missourians have the freedom to live, work, and raise a family. And so I think that's the biggest thing, is how do we use the budget to be intelligent, conservative governors of our state. And I think that's going to be really important, and I think something I'm going to advocate for as well.
All right, current state Rep. Travis Fitzwater last night elected to the state Senate district in Callaway County area. Travis Fitzwater joining us this morning on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Well, it's really hard because we passed an eminent domain bill this last year, and like a week or two after the governor signed it, the company that we were passing the bill because they created all these problems in the state of Missouri, they announced that they were expanding their project to go through Callaway and Audrain counties, and then all of a sudden it wasn't just a passionate issue because I care about our rural areas. It became a passionate issue to fight against eminent domain for private companies, because now it's impacting my district as well. So, I think that fight will remain. I think we'll keep working to make sure that farmers' property rights are protected, and I think that's an important thing that we do as state legislators. We've got to fight for Missourians' rights.
We had one of the Callaway County commissioners a couple of months ago talking specifically about those solar farms, the solar farms, big issue, Callaway County. Yeah. That's something that you're going to be facing too. Travis Fitzwater elected to the state Senate, 10th District, Callaway County. So what did you do last night? I mean, you win the Senate. Like, seriously, be as honest as you want, but is it like an all-night affair?
No, I have a young family, so not really. Last night we went to the Callaway Republican watch party. They always have a watch party in Fulton, and the Callaway Republicans have meant the world to me. They've wrapped their arms around this young guy that got involved in politics locally, and they've gone to bat for me over years, and so it's always fun to be around them. They helped me win my Senate primary, which is very competitive, and they've just meant the world to us. So we celebrated our victory with them I don't know, about 9:30 when we finally got results, and then we came down and saw our Congressman Blaine Luetkemeyer. I've always appreciated his relationship, and Senator Mike Bernskoetter, who won his. Basically, he didn't have competition in the general, but he's from Cole County. He's always been a great friend, and we celebrated with them on their victories, and then we came home, and I tried to go to sleep, but it took a little while.
Now, I asked Mark Alford this earlier, and you've been, this is his first election, but you've been around the block a time or two. Do you have any election day rituals or superstitions on the days that you're on the ballot?
Not really. I think I just want to be around my family. I think that's the biggest thing is how do we celebrate as a family appropriately, and my daughters, they're all into it now. They're kind of veterans of this whole thing, and so my daughters are asking me about results through the night, and they really won't believe that I'm a senator until it's official, which is really funny. So I'm telling them, I think
how old are your kids?
The official results are in, and my 10-year-old's like, it's not official.
10 years old.
It's not
All
official.
Right. I love that. 10-year-old working on the campaign, Travis Fitzwater. Must work. He was elected to the state senate last night, 10th district, national level. I don't want to put a damper on anybody's mood right now because we're celebrating some of the good things that did happen. We're writing headlines for newspapers this morning. What happened nationally? People were expecting a red wave. My headline is not a red wave. Stephanie's headline in the newspaper this morning would be
Boone County. Thanks, Hannah.
Hannah's headline this morning?
Meh.
What would your headline be on the national level, Travis? If you're writing a headline for the Fulton Sun newspaper, what's your headline?
Oh, good grief, I don't know.
That would be it. That's it. That works. Good grief, I don't know. Will you take it, Marsh? Will that work?
Yeah. It wasn't the night we were expecting, I don't think. I think people got excited, and we thought it was going to be a big wave, and it wasn't necessarily a big wave, but we still had a lot of things to be encouraged by.
All right, we'll take it. Travis Fitzwater, thank you so much for your time. And as always, if there's something we can do to be of service to you and your constituents, please let us know. Text your headlines, 874-9390. We've got some really good ones. My headline was,
Hey, what happened?
What happened? What happened? We were watching this unfold during our election coverage last night. I'm looking around at everybody in the room. Randy Tobler. How about that job Tobler did, huh, John?
Did you hear what they were chanting at the DeSantis party last night?
Was it
2 more years?
Oh, wow, pretty slick. All right, so one of the other big things locally, we lose 2 conservative seats in the state House of Representatives, 47th District, seat currently held by Basie, and then the seat currently technically held by Sarah Walsh. Those 2 seats flipped to Democrats last night locally. The other big thing, Amendment 3, it passed. So the question, so we're getting a lot of headline suggestions this morning on the text.
on December 8th, on the effective date, that is when the decriminalization elements of it go into effect. So possession of up to 3 ounces, use of it by anyone over the age of 21 would no longer be illegal. And then to actually go into a store and buy it, if you're not a medical patient and over the age of 21.
When? That's John Payne, Legal Missouri 2022 campaign manager, chatting with KRCG. So 2 different components to Amendment 3, legalize marijuana. There's the decriminalization aspect, and there's also the aspect of when people that have been in trouble for some of these less serious pot offenses can start seeking relief there. But then the big thing is, okay, so when can somebody walk into a strip mall
without a card,
with no card, no nothing?
And you're asking for a friend, right?
No, I don't know. I want to be clear here. After 807 days without a drink, I don't need the weed either, man. But you can walk in and just buy marijuana, just like you can buy booze. And
freedom.
Freedom. I don't find it I think it's great. You should be able to.
You should be able to do that by early 2023.
That's the second most popular thing on the text this morning. Okay, all this, the headlines for a disappointing day for conservatives nationwide, but when can you start imbibing in the cannabis legally, recreationally? 2 months from now.
It is going to be interesting and a bit of an adjustment to just see it being sold just anywhere.
But it's being sold now. I mean, it's all over. Like, do you see it now? I mean, there's stores in Columbia. There's stores all over Jeff City. There's a store on the boulevard. Does it bother anybody?
I mean, it doesn't bother me, but
and the number of people with cards is a lot.
It's just different.
Yeah, it'll be different.
Yeah. Yeah. Welcome into the show. It's Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Stephanie Bell, producer Hannah, Brian Houseworth, John Marsh. My name is Branden Rathert. So one of the big historic things last night on a statewide level, Scott Fitzpatrick was elected to become the state auditor, seat held by the lone Democrat on a statewide level, Nicole Galloway. And I think according to what Brian has been saying, it's been like well over 100 years since Republicans have held every single spot. You've got, the AG, auditor, treasurer, governor, lieutenant governor. So kind of a historic night in the making. He's here, but I think also he's going to be able to offer some interesting insight. We had several races, and not just the 47th and 50th House seat here in Missouri. Seats lost, Republicans losing 2 seats locally in the state legislature, but elsewhere in the state, some real surprises. So Scott Fitzpatrick, because of his time serving in the legislature in Jefferson City, might be able to offer some interesting insights.
Yeah, we lost someone down in Springfield, and a lot of the races were really close.
Coming up, so he's going to be joining us here at 8:10. What would your headline, if you were writing a headline for a newspaper and you're waking up and you're shocked at the results nationally? By the way, still 4 Senate seats out there. Don't know that we'll know anything today either. What would your headline be? Get those texts in to us, 874-9390.
60 seats. Some Republicans in the last week have been saying 30 seats. We are not. We are not in that ballpark.
But this was not the red wave the polls had suggested.
We didn't have a red wave. It was a blue wave.
And just look at this map, right? That's not a red wave. That's nothing like a red wave.
If you woke up this morning and you were stunned at the results nationwide, you are not alone. Welcome into Wake Up Mid-Missouri. I am Branden Rathert, hanging out with Stephanie Pell, John Marsh, Brian Hausworth, producer Hannah. What happened? It was definitely not a red wave. That's my headline this morning. Not a red wave. We are writing. So today we're pretending like we're working for the newspaper industry. It's a dying industry, but we're working for it anyway today. We're working for a newspaper. We're writing the headline. My headline is not a red wave. Stephanie's headline.
I guess if it's a newspaper and not radio, then it would be Boone County eye roll emoji.
Okay. And if it were radio?
Boone County. Thanks, Hannah.
I love Hannah's headline, too.
Meh.
No, it's pretty good. It really is. It's pretty good.
Thanks.
Meh is the headline. It's pretty good. Marsh, what's yours this hour? Seeing around that is pretty good. Jack off the text, 874-9390. It's not the economy, stupid. Ooh. Nationwide. So right now, still 4 Senate seats on a national level, still 4 Senate seats at play. And, of course, those are some of the big ones. Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, Wisconsin. So there's still 4 out there in play. That's one of the big stories this morning. And I think a couple of other things. Michigan, they voted to protect abortion rights in the state of Michigan. Meanwhile, in Kentucky, and this is really interesting, you think Bible Belt salt of the earth, Kentucky voters have rejected an anti-abortion ballot initiative. So pretty surprising stuff there. I'll tell you something that wasn't a surprise. Scott Fitzpatrick winning the state auditor's position. Seat currently held by Nicole Galloway. We're going to chat with him here in just a second. But first, a quick headline from Timothy at 874-9390. What's the headline you're writing this morning, Timothy?
Expectations out of bounds.
Expectations out of bounds. That's one way of looking.
We are dealing with the Democrats are just so. I mean, we have to deal with them, and you can't. You still got to fight every day with them because they're kind of in power right now, and it's harder to fight against that. But we win a few seats. We got to be thankful for that and keep moving ahead. Don't be discouraged.
Yeah. Timothy, thank you. And to your point, I think people like Joe Biden's probably feeling invigorated for the first time in 27 years, as much as that dude can feel invigorated. You know, he's got to be waking up in a really good mood this morning.
Yeah. And one thing about, I think it's very important to note something because I've noticed a lot of the tone from the callers. Republicans did unbelievably well in this state. Supermajorities in the Missouri Senate, supermajorities in the Missouri House. Every statewide office holder for the first time in 100 years. And what happened in other states does not have any impact on Missouri. Now, yeah, in Boone County, there were Democrats did extremely well. But you look at Missouri as a whole, ruby red. It's as red as any time as I've seen in my lifetime.
And locally, losing that 47th seat and the 50th seat.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, that's a big deal. But right now, let's bring in one of the folks who did pick up a win. It was not unexpected. Scott Fitzpatrick. He is the state treasurer. He is now the auditor-elect. The lone seat currently held by a Democrat, Nicole Galloway, on her way out. Stepping in, Mr. Scott Fitzpatrick. This is not the first political race that you have won. You have won several in different offices over the years. Is this victory any sweeter, any different than the others?
Well, you know, you always enjoy a win, and I have to say that the national outcomes, I would say, have made it a little bit bittersweet. You obviously, you know, I've been listening to you guys talk here for a little bit, and would have liked to have seen better performance for Republicans nationally. I think we have to take a step back and reflect on why we didn't see the results we were expecting. But I am obviously very excited to have won. And to have been the person that is taking the last seat statewide from Democrats in Missouri in over 100 years. And, you know, now you got to focus on doing the job and making sure that you give voters the things you told them you were going to give them and, make sure that you don't let them down because they've given us this opportunity.
So while we weren't surprised by, your win, I think some of the state house races I was surprised by. It's being reported this morning that Missouri Democrats are picking up 5 seats in the House. Now, you as a longtime, member of the House, what do you make of this with them picking up seats here in Boone County and Springfield? What should be read into that, if anything?
Well, the House Republican Campaign Committee has long been, an incredibly effective operation for House Republicans to go into these really close seats and win these tough races. And for a long time, there'd really been no response to that out of the Democrats. The Democrats have started to organize a little bit and have benefited from some leadership that is really focused on these targeted seats, and they competed and they went out and they won some tough races. And so that's it's disappointing, and every once in a while you're going to have a disappointing cycle. This should not have been one of them. But you're right. I mean, we lost an incumbent in Springfield, Craig Fischel, who's a really good guy. Lost in a nail biter down there. Other pickup opportunities just really didn't materialize for us at the House level. And the Senate, obviously, was no real surprises in the Senate. I thought we had a chance to maybe win the St. Louis County seat over there that Tracy McCreary won, but I was not betting on that one necessarily happening, and it didn't. So, we definitely need to take a step back and regroup and be ready to go next cycle.
Mr. Fitzpatrick, we appreciate you joining us. Brandon and I, of course, covered the rally for 93.9 The Eagle this week when you were speaking over at the Republican headquarters. And I know when you went to the microphone, you said that there's 525 school districts across Missouri. And I believe, and I'm going from memory, I believe you said maybe 10 to 15 have been audited. The rest have not been audited. It sounds like you will audit school districts as auditor. Explain that and the significance of that.
Well, the auditor has the responsibility to audit state and local governments, and inside of that is school districts, and it's one of the areas that for a very long time has just not been given any attention. And when we talk about how much money, what the state spends its money on, the largest expenditure of state government is on the Medicaid program. We spend billions and billions of dollars a year on Medicaid. The second is K-12 education. And look, I grew up in public education in rural Southwest Missouri. My mom taught public school for 33 years at the same district. And so I am not, an anti-public education guy, but at the same time, I also can read and look at numbers, and I can see that 2/3 of the kids in Missouri aren't proficient in math or science, and over half of the kids in the state don't read on grade level. We're giving record funding to schools, and we need to make sure that parents have the tools that they need to hold their school leaders accountable, to teach their kids the things that they need to know to be ready for the workforce or go to college, and not spend all this money that we're sending them to, teach them gender theory when they're in elementary school, or, indoctrinate them with racially divisive curriculum when they're going through public schools. That's not what parents want, and they've had a front row seat to this, to their kids' education. It's the one good thing that's come out of COVID is it's re-engaged parents that maybe were just kind of handing their kids off to public schools and hoping for the best. They now see that they need to be really engaged in the lives of their kids from an educational perspective, and we want to help them do that by focusing some of the resources of the auditor's office on.
All right, we're hanging out with State Auditor-elect current Treasurer Scott Fitzpatrick this morning on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
It's obviously I'm disappointed in the outcome. I was kind of expecting Amendment 1 to fail based on the ballot language. Secretary of State's office wrote the language in a way that pretty much guaranteed failure, because they said that it was going to allow the General Assembly to override the Constitution, and essentially and incorrectly stated that it was going to give the legislature the power to invest state money. So, I didn't expect it to win. I would have liked to have seen it win. I think that I'll work with whoever the next state treasurer is to try to get that back on the ballot, and this time we'll work on getting the ballot language in the joint resolution, which frankly is something we should have done the first time, that better describes what's happening. Really, we're leaving millions of dollars per year on the table that we could be earning if we had some additional investment options. We would be earning a lot more money without taking any additional risk. And it's disappointing that we won't have that opportunity, or the next treasurer won't have that opportunity. And it's really the time it becomes really challenging is when you get into zero or negative interest rate environments, which we were essentially in for an extended period of time during the height of the COVID pandemic when the Federal Reserve cut rates. We had billions and billions of dollars we were having a very hard time finding a home for, and we were in a position of almost having to pay people to hold our money as opposed to getting paid interest to invest it in places. So we need to give the treasurer more flexibility down the road to deal with things like that. And I'll be working with whoever that is as I transition to try to help them take another crack at that.
Mr. Fitzpatrick, let me ask you this. Can you explain real briefly, we've only got about a minute and a half here, but we've got a lot of regretful Biden voters that have been tuning in to Wake Up Mid-Missouri over the past year or so. We've got an influx of new, younger listeners. So one of our missions has been to try to explain what these things mean in very simplistic terms. Somebody listening right now at 8:19 in the morning, what does that mean now that we have a Republican as our state auditor and that person holding the office is Scott Fitzpatrick? What does that mean for somebody listening right now?
Well, it means, and I think that the partisanship of the person in office and the auditor's office is less important than in a lot of offices, because the job of the auditor is called balls and strikes. But I think what you can count on from me is, look, I'm going to be auditing a lot of Republicans as a Republican. So when I put out an audit, and there are findings in it, it's the real deal. It's not going to be political. It's not going to be political, because I'm not going to enjoy, having audit findings on Republicans. But I'm somebody who, in my time in the legislature and as treasurer, I've been willing to criticize Democrats and Republicans when I thought they were doing the wrong thing, and I've stood up for taxpayers against policies from both sides. So, I think what you can expect from me is just somebody that is going to, run the auditor's office with an even hand, and it's going to be fair, but it's going to hold people accountable that are spending our money and wasting it. And if we find people stealing the money, we're going to work with prosecutors to put them in jail.
And you said any victory is a sweet victory. Till how late last night was your sweet victory partying?
Not very late.
All right.
I did a quick at-home party with my family.
Nice.
So we went to bed after we knew the results.
Scott Fitzpatrick, auditor-elect, state of Missouri. Congratulations. And, as always, if there's anything that we can do to help you in your office, let us know.
Hey, thanks. Good guys.
All right. We'll see. It sounds like he was already on his way out. Yeah, all right. Yeah, whatever, guys. See ya. Another headline. We're writing headlines for the news story of the day after what happened on a nationwide level. Still 4 Senate seats up for grabs, and they're all very close races. So we're writing headlines there. And this is from listener Rebecca. Says, what the hell, Bobby? I'm guessing they're referencing something there. I don't know if it's from a TV. Is that from King of the Hill? I don't know what it is. Maybe somebody knows what that is. Coming up, we're going to be doing the Morning Bell business news. Little twist. Only Stephanie Bell can give you. What do you have for us today?
Another headline for you. Stephanie Bell did not win the Powerball.
Uh-oh. Good morning, 8:27. Time for the Morning Bell business news with that little twist only Stephanie Bell can give you.
I'm really disappointed that I didn't win the Powerball. But what was with the drawing? So apparently they didn't draw Monday night.
A glitch. Yeah. I'm wondering, is the Powerball, the people that build the Powerball machines, is that Dominion? Is that I'm just wondering.
Is it drawn in Arizona? Are they still having a lot of problems?
If you're not able to watch the show tomorrow on YouTube or on our Facebook channel, you know why. Slight reference to...
And as it turns out, guess where the person was who won?
Oh, you know, it'd be really sweet, like if it was something like California or something.
Yeah.
What?
Exactly.
No.
Yeah, California. Somebody in California won. Now, they were predicting that it was going to be $1.9 billion, and it ended up being like $2.04 billion. And yeah, somebody from California is going to walk away with all of the money. But there were some winners here locally in Missouri, and I was thinking, I don't need the $2 billion, but $50,000 here or there, I'd take that. That's not like ruin your life money. That's just I take the full cash payout up front. And we still don't know why the delay happened. They did say that somebody didn't complete the security protocols, but they have this like interstate lottery compact where the states agree that we won't tattle on whoever is behind. So we don't know which state really had the problem.
We didn't get the numbers, the lottery numbers, until Karl Rove called them, I think.
But we did find out there were two $1 million winning tickets. Okay. And I think in order to get $1 million, I think you have to match 5 numbers, but then not the Powerball, I think is the $1 million combination. In Rosebud, Missouri. Have you ever been? I think there's a gas station there, and I think that's about it.
And the gas station is there so you can put gas in your car to leave Rosebud, Missouri.
I looked up their population. In 2021, their population was 394. Yet they sold 2 $1 million winning tickets. Like, process of elimination. I know people want to be anonymous, but somebody in Rosebud's got buckets of money now.
And where is Rosebud?
It's let's see, near St. Louis, Rolla, like down, yeah. Right? Am I right, John? Like, yeah. What is that? Southeast of, I don't know.
It's in Missouri, Brandon.
It is in Missouri. But also, okay, so we also sold a $100,000 winning ticket in Hazelwood, and then $50,000 was won in Florissant, Odessa, Ozark, St. Louis, and Town and Country. Where's like Columbia? Where's Jeff City? Where's Mid-Missouri on this list?
Rosebud. All the love going to...
Did I get it right?
Rosebud this morning, which sits off of Highway 50 near the conjunction with Highway 28, which is, yeah, it's in Missouri. You were right. We fact-checked it. It's straight. New incoming Boone County presiding commissioners next.
We need to downsize Missouri government. Our state employees are one of the lowest paid state governments in the country, but I believe we're about the 7th largest state government per capita.
That's Republican Jim Schulte, wins House Seat 49, Callaway County seat, currently technically held by Travis Fitzwater. Travis Fitzwater winning election into the Senate, and that's where we start this segment here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. I am Branden Rathert. There's Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
Still a lot of hot takeaways. I will say this right now. We're getting ready to chat with Kip Kendrick. He is the incoming presiding commissioner in Boone County. Tomorrow there's a lot to cover because some of what happened last night and what is still unfolding this morning will have some big implications on the 2024 race, the presidential race. The other thing that we're watching is, okay, so Governor Parson gets to appoint 2 more people into office following wins last night from our Attorney General, Eric Schmidt, who's going into the Senate. So there's some implications there, what's happening on a statewide level. A lot of things to cover tomorrow. And then I will say this, Friday, we're going to kick some tail on a Feel Good Friday because, we need it.
I'm going to take a break from all the politics.
It's crazy. One name, and I'm very, very excited to hear from Kip Kendrick. I think he's going to have a huge role here, and he's a rising star on the Democratic side. One name that I certainly am going to pay close attention to for potentially, this is just me as someone who's covered the Capitol, and Governor Parson's been down there, but if he is looking for someone, and he will, to replace Fitzpatrick at treasurer, I think he has to look at Dan Hegeman. Dan Hegeman was the Senate Appropriations Committee chair, very widely respected. Not really, he's conservative, he's certainly Republican, but not partisan. But you almost have to have someone in that position that has some experience with the budget, and I don't think Cody Smith would want that, although I think he potentially could go to him as well. Inevitably, there could be wild cards, but if I were to pick one guy that I think, and I don't know this, that I think he would look at because he likes to tap people that he served with, I would have to say Dan Hegeman would be near the top. That's just my gut feeling.
And, while we kind of have separated today Missouri and national politics, I do think in looking at what happened nationally, there is a lot to learn for Missouri conservatives, and looking at what happened in the House, in the state House last night. I think there's a lot to learn for Missouri in 2024. And I think, I'm a little nervous. I'm still optimistic, but I think we have to look at last night and we have to make some changes.
Since it did not turn out the way a lot of Republicans were thinking last night, I think I'm the opposite of optimistic. Man, are we really going down this pathway? Maybe we'll cover that tomorrow, but then Friday we're not. I don't know what we're going to do Friday here on a Feel Good Friday. It's going to be good. There's producer Hannah. John Marsh is here. John, gladly taking any ideas you have to help really jazz up our Feel Good Friday. You got anything offhand? I'm thinking even though I don't drink, kegers in here and some Fritos. Something. It's got to be a good time. Let's welcome into the show now Kip Kendrick, former state rep, has been elected as the Boone County presiding commissioner. Kip Kendrick, welcome into the show. We are glad you are here, being out of, you're still kind of in the public servant life. You're chief of staff, Senator Greg Razor, out of Kansas City, but been a while since you've now held your own elected office. How did that feel for you to be back in the scheme of things and to pick up a win last night?
Thank you guys for having me on. I really appreciate it. I felt good going into yesterday too. People ask you how you doing, how you maintaining, and I felt really good throughout the week, just knowing that there was nothing more I could do and nothing I would change about how we ran the race. And also knowing at the end of the day, Connie is a good person and she was running for the right reasons and she ran a good race. And, if I didn't win, I know that she was doing it for the right reasons. And if I did win, it gave me the opportunity to serve again. And that's just, it's humbling.
I'm glad you acknowledged that because it was kind of interesting last night. Steve Spellman, he's very active in the community. And I wasn't there because we were here doing election coverage, but I saw a video of Connie. I'm like, man, she really did look tired. And she really did. I mean, she was everything. She was everywhere. So let me ask you this, because there's some things we can ask about the office, but I'm more excited to ask you about this. So we've been talking, Scott Fitzpatrick, Mark Alford's been on the show and talking about the offices that they have now been elected to serve in, but also talking about what happened on a national level last night. Not what folks were expecting, but we've been asking all Republicans, You're a Democrat. I'm dying to hear your point of view nationally. What in your mind do you think is going on?
I really don't know, and I be completely honest, I haven't even looked at what's happened nationally. Just caught up on catching up with friends and and family and trying to enjoy the night and trying to get 2 hours of sleep. So I haven't really looked at that. I plan on looking at it today and into tomorrow. I will say before I came on, Brian's suggestion on Senator Dan Hagman. What a throw out there you did there, Brian. That's fantastic. I hadn't even thought about that. Senator Hagman, like him leaving the building, just the institutional knowledge he has inside that building. If he would be willing to serve as treasurer, he would be a perfect fit. Just a true public servant.
And again, Representative and now presiding commissioner-elect, I'll tell you, and I throw that out there only in that is someone I covered, and he's not a flamethrower. You've worked with him, but goodness gracious, you both know, and it really in that position, it's dollars and cents and somebody who just can understand how to do it. And I just have covered, of course, I covered him when I was a young reporter 30 years ago. He was a young state rep. We both have much less hair now, but he's been around a long time. So we'll see. Ultimately, it's going to be the governor's decision. But I know you work with him, and you both have enormous respect for each other.
Oh, yeah. And, Scott and I were texting, throughout the week as well. I've just truly enjoy him. Scott Fitzpatrick, he's just a great guy, and excited to see him in his new role. He is great as treasurer, but he's just a much better fit for auditor. He really is. That's who he is, and that's how he operated the House Budget Committee with an oversight function, and so he's going to do spectacular in that role. So I'm excited to see him to move into that too.
Yeah, turning to your new role, I know I got an invite. There's a Boone County Municipal Government Dinner coming up in November of Boone County elected officials. And while, the elections in Boone County last night were pretty much a clean sweep for Democrats, in Centralia, Ashland, there's more conservatives elsewhere. And so, if you look at all the counties, Boone County, I think, is one where we're pretty much split. And, we've got Representative Reich, and now we've got 2 new Democrat House members. How do you see your role as presiding commissioner of Boone County and kind of coordination? Some of the big projects that have really come to fruition, Roachport Bridge, all of those things have required significant coordination, cooperation. Do you see yourself in leading that process, and how do you do that?
Oh, I'd be honored and humbled too. I mean, I always point to the Roachport Bridge project in particular, and just the work that Senator Blunt did on that, but just the cooperation and coordination across all the governmental levels too, which you don't see often. But when it happens, and it happens like that, it's just a true success story. And that's if I'll try to be optimistic moving forward from the election. I hope that we can continue to disagree and on policy and really think through things deeply. But I'll hope that we find a way to figure out how to work together on things, right?
Well,
and row in the same direction.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, I know with Ashland, we've had some MoDOT issues come up, and as little old Ashland trying to go approach MoDOT, that's a hard thing for a small town. But with the backing of the county, I think we might have more success when we're really trying to get stuff done.
All right, our guest right now, Boone County presiding commissioner-elect, former state representative Kip Kendrick, joining us on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
No, that's right. There's a lot of minutia to it, right? And it's not glamorous. I think that, the commission, we need to do what we can to kind of elevate the profile of the commission, help people better understand how the commission interacts with their daily lives. But also, just dive into the weeds of it. I'm excited about that. I'm excited about resetting, because campaigning and governing are 2 completely different things, or at least should be treated as such, right? And so I'm excited about resetting out of that campaign mode and really digging back into the policy where I love it, and it's where you make the difference.
So you and I, we've been knowing each other for a while. Would you be mad if I asked you, are you going to stay in this office for the full term?
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, you would be mad if I asked you that?
No, I wouldn't be. And
All right, just checking.
It's the right question to ask. I mean, it really is, and I don't take offense to you asking.
Right.
I've got to build back trust. I've got to build back trust with people. I do. And I was joking with the team today. I texted them early this morning, the team of interns I had working with me. I said, if we announce for the re-election today and we start knocking tomorrow, conservatively, I think we can hit about 290,000 doors, but a stretch goal would be about 500,000. I imagine there's going to be a lot of eye rolls when they wake up and read that. But, yeah, I mean, I plan on being there for a full term and hope to run for re-election in 4 years.
All right. Well, I'm glad you get us. That's why I felt comfortable asking that question. We're never trying to be mean. It's just sometimes how we play the game. It's like a talk show host, on some radio station encouraging people not to vote for the Democratic candidate for Boone County Commission, and then 24 hours later, he's a guest on that same show. But it's the game. Don't hate the player, man. Hate the game, right?
No, and you don't even hate the game, right? Like, people need a choice, and they do. And I'm gonna approach this office just like to the greatest extent possible in a partisan environment such as General Assembly, where I tried to be as nonpartisan as I could. This is a perfect opportunity to just represent all of Boone County. We're gonna have disagreements. I'm gonna disagree with Democrats at times. I'm gonna disagree with people, but I'm willing to listen, and I'm willing to work through those disagreements and figure out how do we move things forward. That's what it's all about. This is a special place to live.
All right, incoming Boone County Presiding Commissioner. Again, I do want to thank you for mentioning the hard work, and I know you worked hard too. Connie Leopard, my goodness, businesswoman of the year and successful business owner for 40 years. I know she worked incredibly hard. Kip Kendrick, you know the gig here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. In the future, if there's anything that we can do for you to be of service to the folks in Boone County, you've got our numbers. You can reach out and hit us up, okay?
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, too.
Hey, you bet. Of course.
Branden, if I could make a very quick point, and I think this is very, very important to note to the listeners, and I said this to Scott Fitzpatrick when he was on. He was the chairman of the Budget Committee, and I'd say it to the listeners because Kip was his ranking Democrat. Both of those guys, one Republican, one Democrat, I would cover every House Budget Committee hearing I could because those are loaded with information. And both of them would stay after the hearings to talk to me. They didn't have to. They did because I wanted to make sure that all my information was absolutely accurate. And there were times when Kip and the chairman were both late to their caucuses, but both talked to me to make sure my information was accurate because they understood the importance of getting the story right. That, I think, is a very important thing. I give them both kudos for that.
Matter of fact, Scott Fitzpatrick, after you became a family member, one of the first things Scott Fitzpatrick said when he heard Brian Houseworth here on the show, he's like, oh, my gosh. But he told the story about you, about how, there would be a lot of times, and talking about his respect for your journalistic chops, much like the journalistic chops of John Marsh. But he said, there would be times I'd be late for meetings because Brian Houseworth was standing there in the hallway with his pen and paper saying, I want to make sure I have this right. And he said, I didn't care about being late to meetings. If there was a journalist standing in my hallways here in Jefferson City and he's wanting to make sure he's got the story, I'll spend all day with you. Coming up.
I did. Thank you.
By the way, Gary Nolan, he got a big show today. I was saying last night while we were doing election coverage, can't wait to hear his take on that Fetterman-Oz race. Gary Nolan show coming up a little bit after 9 o'clock. And Trump fans, he's telling me, he says Trump fans are not going to like what he has to say this morning. That's coming up. Also, leftovers.
Here's a big old serving of leftovers. Enjoy.
Some things that we did not get to on the show today, and I'm trying to. I got a couple of things that are non-election related. Listen, big things before Gary Nolan show comes up. Still 4 Senate seats for the taking right now, and I think that's the big thing on a national level. Locally, obviously, Eric Schmidt wins. Uber locally. Here in mid-Missouri, we lost 2 conservative seats in the state house in Jefferson City. Lost the 47th seat to a Democrat. Lost the 50th district seat to a Democrat. A3. That passes. So those are the big things. Gary Nolan's going to be on some of this, as will Fox News. They'll be on it. And then later today, of course, Randy Tobler. Tobler show starts at 4 o'clock here on the radio station. Anything for leftovers that's not election related?
MIZ, yeah.
ZOU. Did you hear? This is such a cool story.
New York City in the 2022 Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade.
I'm a big marching band nerd. I know Hannah is too.
Oh, yeah.
Love a good marching band. Mizzou is just one of 12 bands that will be performing at Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade.
Yeah, I love that. And I was thinking, when you and I emceed, I guess, the biggest homecoming parade in the nation a couple of weeks ago, I thought, why isn't the Lincoln University marching band here?
Oh, they're very good.
Yeah, I saw Lincoln University in 2015 at their homecoming. My goodness. And I'm wondering, they should be in the Mizzou. They should be in the homecoming parade.
Yeah, and I saw they just had a big first basketball game, too, and I love going to their basketball games because usually their band shows up, and it's always a good time.
Yeah. Marsh, what's in your fridge of leftovers? Yeah. Very nice, man. Very, very nice. Also, some other things we didn't get a chance to get to this morning. Man jailed after road rage case in Jefferson City. Apparently, traffic, and as we see with a lot of people today, whether it's out on the streets or whether it's out on the highway, like Highway 54, and you have a disagreement with somebody, quickest way to handle a disagreement is just pull out a gun and start popping some caps.
No.
It's not?
Let's not do that, please.
All right. Well, that's what people are doing. Look, somebody cuts you off in traffic and you want to shoot them up. Blows me away. And also, story I know that's been covered a little bit, but Columbia police are warning of a suspected prowler targeting women. This story reeks of like 1979. I mean, there is a police sketch artist drawing of what this dude might look like, but there's a series of incidents kind of all in the area of like 63 Grindstone, Discovery Drive, kind of in that area. So police are urging you to be on the lookout. Brian has it posted on our website, 939theeagle.com. My dad's favorite show, Gary Nolan Show. He is coming up just minutes from now. What he has to say about Trump, you may not like. See you back here tomorrow. See ya.
Bye.